says it's connecting. Hello, and welcome to the next Ask Me Anything. I do have a couple of questions that were sent in, but the biggest thing I want to do is announce 2 upcoming trainings, okay? So I'm going to get to those a little bit later. First things first, who am I? What do I do? I'm a kinesiologist. I've also been trained in yoga therapy, so I blend everything that I've done and everything I've experienced with my own back pain into treating clients and working with students. I teach yoga for backs classes, and I work one-on-one with clients who are experiencing persistent pain, and also clients who have back pain and Parkinson's. That was just kind of a little side thing that I ended up getting into with somebody that I worked with who had Parkinson's, and the knowledge of how the nervous system works and how I work into getting people to move works really well with helping people who have movement disorders. So that's where I am. But one of the questions that pops up regularly, and it's kind of like a almost stumbling block that I deal with when working with people who have chronic pain, is Google. People, we all do it. I do it. I do know better now, because unfortunately when you put something into Google, you get the top most viewed, busiest websites that have very basic information. They don't necessarily have the most up-to-date, scientific, evidence-based information to talk about. So it's very basic in terms of rest and different prescriptions and maybe a couple exercises, but not many have that. Then you get into YouTube. Same kind of thing. It's a rabbit hole of information, and you get different ideas from different people. And this can work really well if you have the ability to decipher what you need and have that experience of what's worked for you in the past and what hasn't. Unfortunately, one of the big things that happens with chronic pain is the mental load of chronic pain. And that's just, we have so much going on as it is. To add in that extra bit of us having to do the research and us having to differentiate, yes, I'm going to try this. No, this isn't going to work for me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to read a little bit more research on this. That contributes to that mental load, and it never usually gets processed very well. So that's where I come in, okay? When I work with clients, we always do an intake session, which tends to be a lot of discussion. What your history is, what doctors have said in the past, physios have said in the past, different experiences you've had with your pain and how it's contributed to where you are now in life. So that's a big part of it. And then we look at a little bit of your movement, okay? What movements aggravate things? What movements have you been able to do? What movements do you want to be able to get back to doing? Those are the big questions. And from that, I always equate it to a puzzle, right? You can imagine the painting behind me, right? If you could imagine that is a puzzle. Some people have 2,000-piece puzzles, right? And we start doing, we find the corners, we do the edges, we get some big chunks done here and there, but there's still gaps. Often when I start working with people and they start noticing these different aspects of how pain affects their life, how that mental load of persistent pain comes into their pain experience, that 2,000 piece puzzle turns into like an 800 piece puzzle. And once you start practicing different aspects of what we work on, that 800 piece puzzle can turn into a 100 piece puzzle. Okay. So yes, it is still a puzzle. We still have to look at putting pieces together, but once you start learning how things fit together and different aspects of what affects your pain experience, that 2,000 piece puzzle starts becoming a little clearer, right? Now, if you despise doing puzzles, I apologize for the analogy, but it works really well in terms of pain, because when we're working with persistent pain, our experience, our upbringing in the medical system makes us believe that there is a fix. There is a biomedical fix, that we need to either take the right drug, we either need to do the right exercise, which, to be honest, people don't really get into doing their exercises for two different reasons. One is that we're really not very motivated often because we don't see the big picture of it. But the second reason is called kinesiophobia, where we have a fear of pain due to movement, which, if you live with persistent pain, there's a really solid chance kinesiophobia plays a big part of it. So we need to be able to start learning why certain movements are beneficial, but starting at a level where they're doable, right? A lot of things we look at, there's that exercise on YouTube, and you see these fit people who are like, do this one exercise for your back pain, and they do it at like level 8, where we need to start at level -1. Okay. So there's a big gap that ends up there, and that kinesiophobia plays into a big part, because if you're like, yeah, that guy says that this exercise is the best exercise, and you try it and your back hurts after, that's not going to be a great motivator. Okay. And that plays back into that kinesiophobia. So with all of that being said, when we start Googling our symptoms, our diagnoses, say something like osteoporosis. Okay, I have worked with quite a few clients who have had diagnoses of like severe osteoporosis, and one in particular. And I love this story because it plays into not just the biomedical aspect of having that diagnosis, but the mental game that gets played behind it. So I had a client, and she went for a bone scan, and she went to her doctor for the results, and the doctor said, yeah, you have severe osteoarthritis in your back and in your hip. And she was like, oh, like, what should I do? And the doctor said to her, well, just don't fall. Right? So she went out, and she's like, oh, I can't fall. If I fall, I'm going to break my hip. Now, this is a woman who is very fit, okay, and very active. And now she has this fear, this trepidation of falling, and not just falling, but breaking her hip. Now, and then being like over, and, all that age stuff that creeps into your head. So she happened to go back a year and a half later. She had another bone scan because they wanted to check on how the osteoporosis was. And this time, now, this totally confirms my bias. So I'm going to say this right out front. This has nothing to do with my bias. This has to do with the fact that she just happened to have another person read her results after that second bone scan. It just happened to be a kinesiologist. Just putting that out there. But so she had somebody else read her the results, and she's like, yes, you have severe osteoporosis. And my friend was like, well, like, I've been trying to work out, I've been trying to do this and everything. And she's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. She says, your muscle mass around the areas of your osteoporosis are so strong, you're good. She's like, even if you fell, your muscle mass is strong enough to help protect you. My friend was like, what? She'd been going for a year and a half, terrified she was going to slip, not even just on ice, but even on the cement, even in a puddle, even in like, right, like on her kitchen floor. So we have to look at how this plays into that bigger picture. Now, when you go and Google osteoporosis, you read a lot of things of, oh, don't bend, don't twist, don't do this, don't lift heavy things, don't do this. And then the thing is, if you look back at the friend of mine who was told, yeah, you've got solid muscle mass, like don't even think twice about it, keep staying healthy. That's what we need to be doing. We need to figure out, even if you are at a place where you have not been living healthy, you have a very sedentary life, if you are breathing, you have a starting point. Okay. There is a place for you to start moving and building on that. So with that being said, when you look at Google, please take it with a grain of salt and know that it is a rabbit hole of a ton of information that may not likely pertain to you. And the best thing you can do is work with someone specifically, one-on-one, so that they can get you into the place you want to be. Which brings me to my first announcement. I will be starting my next Path Back to Wellness program. It's a 6-week program. It's a 1-hour online class each week. But before we start the 6-week program, me and you do a one-on-one session. That's about 45 minutes. And we do exactly what I've been talking about. We talk about your history, what people have told you in the past, what aggravates your pain, what's worked for you in the past, what you want to get back to doing, what your lifestyle is like now, different obstacles that you might come across in order to try and continue this, right? So it's a session with me. We start out, we do all of that, and then you work each week through a 1-hour session. The 1-hour session, it's not movement based. All you need to be able to do is lie down and breathe. That's the starting point. Yes, there is some movement involved, and I will get you moving, but that usually pertains specifically to you. So each 1-hour online class that you do each week, it's a combination of learning about how pain affects your life. I mean, you know how pain affects your life, but the science behind it, why your nervous system starts getting a little bit stronger in sending those pain signals, and why those pain signals, as strong as they might be, don't actually equate to tissue damage. Okay. And you're like, well, that's not true. I know there's damage in my back. Yes, there could be tissue damage. There likely is some level of tissue damage. But when we look at the level of pain that you're experiencing, often they don't measure up. They don't equal each other. Okay. And that's one of the biggest things that you'll learn why and how that happens in this 6-week course. Once you start learning those little things, you start, like I mentioned, your puzzle. Your puzzle goes, oh, you learn something and you look back and you go, that totally happened, or that didn't happen, but I can see how that would affect me. And you put another piece in, right? So once you start the 6-week classes, we meet up 4 times over those 6 weeks, and we have a 30-minute session, and I help tweak your movement stuff that I've been giving you. I help answer your questions. We do a whole bunch of stuff, and over that 6 weeks, you get the first 45-minute session with me. You get 4 30-minute one-on-one sessions. They're online, so you could be anywhere. And you get the 6 1-hour learning sessions, okay? And that's a combination of learning and practicing what I call I don't call it critical alignment therapy, but It's the critical alignment therapy aspect, okay? It's a level of somatic tracking and yoga therapy that helps give you some awareness as to what's going on and practicing how to integrate all of this into your life, okay? So you get all of that. You get a bunch of videos so that you can practice the exercises, and you get free weekly support from there on out through an app called the Go Get Fit app. As long as you're using the app, you get support from me. So with that being said, that is coming up. The start date is going to be March 1st. If you register before February 14th, there is a code on my website. You can use it for a discount. Plus, if you register before February 14th, you will also get an extra 30-minute session with me. Okay, so instead of 4 sessions, you'll get 5, which pretty much gives you 1 session a week through that 6-week program. And that's the path back to wellness. Now, it is limited. Okay, I run it 4 times a year, and it is limited to 6 people. All right, so that's the first thing. So if you are living and experiencing pain daily, check out the program. There's lots more that goes with it, but that's the big gist of it. All right, so check that out. Now, if you're watching this and you're a health professional, maybe you're experiencing pain too, but maybe you're a health professional who helps people with pain. Now, I'm talking health professional in terms of personal trainer, fitness instructor, yoga therapist, physiotherapist, osteopath, acupuncturist, everything, massage therapist. I'm holding a training because I used to train yoga teachers. I owned a yoga studio for a number of years. And since then, I've been running the back care for yoga for back care, should call it, class through the Alberta Yoga College. So in their training program, I go in and teach a module specifically about back pain and persistent pain. Really, we cover the whole gamut. It is a 3-hour class, and as much as I'd love to make it a prerequisite for the next program that I'm launching, which I'm going to tell you in a minute, it's going to become a little 2-hour module, a pre-module that you're going to watch before you do the full 6-hour module. Okay. And the 6-hour module is going to be in person. So I'm going to run it here in Calgary. It's going to be at the end of March. It's going to be a 6-hour course, and we're going to be looking at the basics of critical alignment therapy and how to practice and teach that. We're going to look specifically at 4 different exercises in the critical alignment practice. We're going to be looking at about 2.5 hours of that class is going to be based on learning pain science, learning the research that's been out there, yes, for about 20 years, but it's really just starting to come to the forefront and be like, yes, if you're living with pain, this is something we need to look at. Even like, it was probably about 9 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, that with my back pain, I was sent to a pain clinic. At the pain clinic, there wasn't much. There was a little bit of movement assessment. The physiotherapist told the doctor my glutes were weak, even though like I ride my road bike and can push out like over 200 watts on my road bike. But apparently my glutes didn't work. So that was my cause of my back pain. There was a whole bunch of other things because I ended up learning, which is why I'm here. But with that, now that clinic has incorporated all of this stuff that I'm talking about now. Not because of me. I wish I could say that. But luckily, their medical doctors and their physiotherapists and their exercise physiologists did the work and did the learning, and now they incorporate more of that into their program. But this program, we talk about the pain science because it is important to have an understanding of why we need to look at this bigger picture of pain and how that affects our body systems. Okay. The last little bit of the 6 hour program, it will be about an hour and a half. We will look at specific case studies. We will look at how to build up a basic movement program, depending on if you're in a yoga instructor, a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, what types of movement modalities, because there's so much that you can do. We're going to look at how that plays in different starting points. We're going to look at the red flags you need to watch out for when you're working with people with persistent pain, because as much as 95% of people who have back pain have that non-specific lower back pain, even if there's something on a scan, we'll talk about that too, but there is still a chance that there's that 3 to 5% that have something serious going on, and it could switch. So it's important for you, if you're working with someone who has persistent pain, that you understand those red flags as well. So that's all the different things we're going to talk about in that 6 hour program. And yeah, that training is going to be coming up at the end of March. I'm super excited for it. There's other things I really, really, really want to tell you, but I have to wait a little bit longer. So I'm going to be running another Ask Me Anything probably next week. I'll announce it on Substack and all of the platforms. But in the meantime, head to my website, check out the 6-week Path Back to Wellness program that's coming up. Again, there are only 6 spots available because I do one-on-one work with you. And with that being said, there's no other questions at the moment, so I will see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day.